Namaskar. Welcome to KLF Bhava Samvad. Kalinga Literary Festivals, this platform emerged in the times of lockdowns. Here, the objective was to get closer to people's feelings, emotions, and what is happening in their lives during this time. And people who have a creative streak of imagination, they have always used all difficult times to their advantage and have definitely inspired society in their own ways. So today we are having 68th session of KLA Bhava Sambad, by which we have been able to reach out to 1 million footprints around the world. Legends have come to share their life, their story, their writing, their inspiration, struggle, and resilience. Here today we have another fascinating session by none other than Bhavana Somayaji and Rakhi Bakshi. So these two legendary women doing fantastic work for decades are here today to take us through the journey of inspiration and talking about a book which is another inspirational book. Letters to the Letters to the Mother. So Bhavna Somayaji, no need to introduce her. She's more than 4 and 5 decades. She has been a legendary name in the writing, critique, history of on the one of the leading experts in the film industry, and she is bringing something new every time. Every time she comes within something new. And here, in the times of COVID, we have something very interesting to read about and know about. Rakhi is a legendary television presenter, anchor, host, reporter. She has done all that with LM and with finish and with a huge level of popularity. So she is a kind of a inspiration for everyone who look up to that job and want to become someone like her. So two inspirations, two legendary women talking to each other on something very important, and the topic is another mother. So letter is something very important. We have lost to write kind of skills of writing letter. So welcome to Kalinga Literary Festival. Two legendary women, fantastic session. We will request our viewers please visit our online pages on Facebook and Twitter and YouTube. And also, if you want to see these legendary, inspiring women and men bringing their insights into life every weekend, please also connect to us and donate whatever you can on Insta Mojo, Kalinga Lit Fest. Donate. You can go there. Thank you. And I say on behalf of Rashminanjan Parida, Prachi, Madam Shitanshu, and everyone in the KLF, welcome to Kalinga Literary Festival, Bhava Sambad. Thank you.
And Namaskar. Thank you so much. I go first, Bhavana ji, or you would like to say something?
You go ahead.
Okay. So here I am. We have already been introduced, and as you rightly said, two women. I feel very glad, extremely delighted to be part of Kalinga Literature Festival. Congratulations to all the speakers who have already spoken in the past, and best wishes to all the future ones who will be speaking. Kalinga Literature Festival, as we know, create a literary and cultural landscape, and what a beauty that is. It's part of an intellectual exercise. And I think both me and I can say even on behalf of Bhavna ji that we are very, very happy and delighted to be a part of it today also, because we are talking about literature, about people, about emotions, and that's what this book, Letters to Modi, will be all about. I mean, it's about a personality who's very well known, a personality who holds great responsibility, and but we are also trying to look within that personality. So, Bhavna ji, first of all, welcome on Kalinga Literature Festival, and of course, after that, I will put in, our conversation there.
Thank you very much. I hope you can see me because my laptop is misbehaving and my image is becoming small and medium. So as long as you guys can see me, I'm fine with it.
Okay. So let me introduce to you viewers, participants, audience, whoever are watching us, and thank you for sharing your valuable time. But this book is also very valuable. You know, when you talk about literature, when you talk about a book, every book is special. But I thought this book was special because it not only talks about a personality who we know is the Prime Minister of India today, Mr. Narendra Modi, but we are also trying to understand the individual through this book, Letters to Mother, that Mr. Narendra Modi penned initially in Gujarati, and from that it has been recreated, which Bhawana took it up and translated in English. So we are trying to capture the literature, the emotion, the person behind the personality, so to say. And that is, I think, is a little bit of challenge when I thought that I'll be discussing it. But we'll really try to unravel that person behind that persona, behind that celebrity, behind that powerful personality that we see here every day. So first of all, Bhavanaji, tell us about the whole genesis. I mean, of course, we read about it, as to why and how you picked it up, this letter to be translated by you in English, which was in Gujarati, the writings of Mr. Narendra Modi.
So I have said this earlier, but I'll say it again because this is something I've learned from Zakir Hussain, that, whenever he's being interviewed, the same questions are asked, but he has to always give it the same passion, because there are different viewers and different people who are questioning you at different locations. So from the beginning, when I became a journalist, my father had instilled in me that you have to give time for your mother tongue. So I remember that when I was a struggling reporter, there was somebody in the community who wanted to bring out a weekly, and I said, I'm not interested. And my father said, no, you have to be interested and you have to give it time, even if you don't enjoy it. So that is something that is ingrained in me, and it stays. In 2008, I did a translation of a book from Gujarati into English, which was on Lord Krishna. And that was extremely well received. So one day a friend of mine called and said, so what are you translating these days? And I said, I'm not translating anything, because translating is a very draining exercise. When you are either you are a professional translator, but for somebody like me who is a creative writer, when you are also taking on translating responsibilities, it becomes very draining. So he said, you must translate along with the new book that you write. So he was after me, and then he suggested to me that why don't I think about the Prime Minister's book? So I said, all right. And I vaguely remembered having a book or two in my bookshelf. So I opened my bookshelf, I started reading it, and I was not sure if I was going to do it till I had finished reading the book. I read it again a second time, and by a week I had decided that I would do it. And I decided on the basis of the emotional content that he offers in the book. That is the core of the book, and that is what connects you to it, and that is what connects the readers like you to it, Rakesh.
Okay, did you find it challenging? Because, when I was reading the book, I saw that it has a range of emotions, and we will talk about that. Also, as you say in the book also, that these are intimate and filterless writings. So these are outpourings from his heart, very bare, very raw, and, trying to present it as it was. What kind of challenge it was for you, Bhavana?
Yes, you rightly put it. It's very raw, intense, emotional outpourings, and they are unfiltered. He's not trying to protect himself. He is laying himself bare the way he is. And that has also got to do with, this was written in 1986, when he was not the chief minister, when he was not the prime minister, when he was an ordinary RSS worker, and he was much younger. So it was a different man. But, however different you say, the core of the person carries forward. So the foundation of the man who is today has to come from there. It has to trigger from there. And of course, it was very challenging for me, because Gujarati language is very different from English. The rhythm, the language, the vocabulary, everything, the meter is different. The syntax is different. So, because I think in English, but then I was not writing in Gujarati, so it was easier. Every book is a challenge, but translation is a bigger challenge. And I had to be careful that I don't lose his essence My worry was that I should not lose his essence because that is the star of the book.
Sure. So I would allow me to read something out of the book, which will also explain as to what is the whole texture, as you say, of the writing. So he says, and I'm quoting from the book and in the foreword, he says, a public figure is always judged by his positions, irrespective of what he says, he does. His person becomes so exaggerated that it is difficult to trace the man behind the image. Or let me put it this way, there comes a time when there is no desire in us to search for the individual behind the mask. In fact, he uses the mask.
I'm losing you.
Yeah.
I'm losing you in between because of the internet, probably.
Can you hear me now?
Yes. Yes.
So let me repeat. Let me repeat. But I think you know words are that how a public figure is judged, and how a public figure knows that one is getting judged by coming through the book, where you know that you're getting judged, but how you feel inside, those inner conflicts. How would you really look at a personality, the prime minister today, who's gone through a journey, who's traveled through a journey, feels about being judged or not being judged?
You're asking me?
Yeah, Bhavana ji.
Okay. So I think he said what he wanted to, and he also said that I'm going to say what I want to, and I don't want to be judged. And if you judge, it's your problem. I think what I learned from him is that you have to just be yourself and you have to express when you want to, and not be worried about the baggage, about how people are reacting to it.
Mm-hmm. Okay, not being worried about it. I'll keep on reading.
Don't
And
read
these
too
are
much.
really.
Rakhi, don't read too much because the publisher does not want too much to get out. It's a very small book, so we don't want too much to be read.
Here is a personality who's the Prime Minister of India today. He not only talks about his journey, becomes a great. Bhavna, can you hear me?
I'm losing you in between, and what I want to tell you is that don't read too much because we don't want the mystery to go away. Rakhi, can you hear me?
I hear you.
I'm saying that I'm losing you in between. The internet is poor somewhere. And I'm saying also that don't read too much from the book because the publisher doesn't want to give away too much.
Okay, sure. We'll and I want to ask, because these are letters in the book. How would you look at this public figure today, the Prime Minister of India, Mr. Narendra Modi, and the person who's writing? So, I mean, what I can see and sense is there are so many emotions which we really don't know much about. I think a lot of people don't know much about that. We have only seen a figure from the exterior. We don't know the person which is inside. And that's what I think is reflected in the book.
And that is the attraction of the book, because we know him as the most powerful man in the country today, and we don't associate him with any emotion. Actually, we just think he's taking decisions and the country is getting ruled. But it's when you read this book, then it's a deconstruction of an icon, because it is
Exactly.
presenting him as a human being who is having the same anxieties and fears that you and I have, and he's going through so many upheavals that he is trying to face on his own, and that makes him so vulnerable. And what is wonderful is that he's not scared of his vulnerability. He's letting it become public. He's exhibiting his vulnerability.
You know,
So what?
in times we have seen, I mean, we saw it even during the Lok Sabha election, when we saw the Prime Minister, going to Kedarnath, just when the world was looking at him, actually, just before the results were out. How do you look at this whole idea of mysticism, spirituality, the philosophy that he believes in, which I think gets reflected through the book?
Yes, I see a deep sense of a meditative, reflective process all the time. He observes too much. He
Yeah.
absorbs a lot. He is connected to the universe, to nature. He is always having a different interpretation of simple things around him, whether it is trees, birds, streams, rivers, mountains, sun, moon. And you sometimes wonder if he overthinks. And sometimes you wonder that how can he have time and space within him to absorb so much. But I think the book is a result of him not being able to contain himself with all these navarasas or all these emotions, and that's why he releases it in the form of a journal or a diary.
I'm sure when the book really comes out, and when the publisher really wants everyone to read each word very beautifully, of course, I must compliment you, Bhavana ji, for using those very subtle, very, very nicely woven words, trying to capture all those emotions in those words. And as somebody would say, oh, I'm not a great writer, but I think these writings himself, I mean, there is no boundary to writing and a writer as to how one should be. And I think that gets reflected very well, in this book. Range of emotions, again, I would say, talking about the nation a lot, this Jagat Janni, that, the word that he uses. How do you look at a patriot here? Somebody who from a very young age, I mean, at a young age also he went to Himalayas. This yogi in him, which tries to go for this quest for life. So this quest is captured here, I think, in the book.
So see, you asked a number of questions. I will try to recall them and go one by one. First and foremost, I must say that you have read the book very intently, because you are asking all the right questions and you are using all the right descriptions. So I'm very deeply touched that it has touched you. The choice of words in translation, here I have to also give credit that I would rework on it and rewrite it again and again. And my only sounding board was my editor, Udayan Mitra, who was very patient with me, allowing me to change as many times as I wanted, to bring poetry to it. Is somebody saying something there? No.
No.
So that is the second is inside Narendra Modi ji, you can see a yogi, you can see a patriot, you can see a soldier, you can see activist, you can see a human. There are so many shades to the man, and whatever he's feeling for the nation is coming through in the 1986 journal. Whatever he wants to do for the country is also coming through. He is addressing social concerns all the time.
Okay.
He's looking to be connected, and spirituality, religion, not so much, but spirituality, his relationship with the Mother Goddess, whom he tells everything, and he knows that the Mother Goddess will lead him through the tunnel.
Sure. I mean, these are, you rightly said, these are conversations, somewhere. And I would like to put it here without really actually reading out much from the book, is that here is a personality who's head of a state, now with so many responsibilities. But all these writings, when it was done that time, and which I think reluctantly was put into, first of all, a compilation, which you translated and translated. Um, One is talking about one's emotion to a lady, to a mother, to Jagat Janani, to someone that he strongly believes in, to the whole idea of nation, to the idea of where this earthly, institution comes from. And then he also talks, he ranges between those emotions, Bhavanaji, where he sometimes talks about sorrow, suffering, at the same time also looking at a future. How would you really look at this whole conflict of these varying emotion at the same time? You're talking about, looking at the sky, but you're also talking about your earthly, standing, where you are coming from, your roots.
I think that makes him human because if you look at the horizon, you can only see the sky and the stars. But early morning, you have to get back to the routine and to the monotony, and then he's facing those issues. So I think that dichotomy, the contradiction, is all a part of human life, and he's accepting it instead of isolating himself from it.
I'm sure once this comes out, Bhavana ji, I mean, you know it.
It is
Because
out
you have
of
penned it. You have penned it, so you know it. But when it really comes out, I think it will really strike a lot of chords because people who've seen him and people who see a persona, which seems to be at times this strong, invincible kind of a personality, But here we are actually seeing a person at times, if I may use the word, with all his vulnerabilities. When he talks, about some of the things that maybe we never know that are there inside him. I mean, these are revelations of a sort of a person, which is so distinct to the person we see and hear today.
Rakhi, all of us go through high and low phases, and all of us go through success and failure. It is acceptance of our phases and also acceptance of what we are feeling during that phase. Uh, that is what is real confidence. And imagine, look at this man that he is feeling very intense emotions and he has documented it. He has put it on a journal. And
I'm frankly very pleasantly surprised, and I'm sure the readers would be once it's really out there, because it shows him in so many different hues, so many different colors within one personality, which is very distinct from what we've seen, especially from 2014 till now, and of course earlier when he was the Chief Minister of Gujarat. A person who thinks, he says, I mean, and that much I can tell the viewers, that I'm not a literature, I'm not a great writer as such, but these are some of these inner emotions that I put from pen to paper. How would you look at the literary side also, so to say? It does make him a writer when he writes that. How would you look at the writer Narendra Modi here?
See, there are kinds and kinds and types of writers. When I was a budding journalist, my editor would often have edit meetings and say, Bhavana's writing is more emotional, the other one has more style, the third one has more breaking stories. So everyone has a forte. I think about him, what I feel is he's definitely an unprofessional writer. It's not a professional writer. It is unchiseled, it is unpolished, and it is unpolished because I don't think he had any ambitions of publishing it.
Yeah.
But it has lot of emotion, and that emotion compensates for everything. It is unfiltered, and he says that I don't know whether it is prose or poetry, but there is a rhythm. He has a sense of rhythm in his words, and his language is very good, extremely good in Gujarati, and he uses extremely
Wow.
rich words, which
Okay.
are not a part of daily parlance of a Gujarati household. So that was the difficult part for me. because I'm not educated in Gujarati. I was just taught at home by my parents. Um, but in Gujarati, I think people who read him will really love it. And in
Sure,
English,
right.
people will appreciate, I'm sure.
And another aspect which also comes through at times, but which I think through this book comes largely, is love for nature. He talks about this whole idea of oneness. He talks about always hills, mountains, ocean. References to those. This whole connect with the nature, which is always, I think we can see sometimes when he talks. When he talks and he comes out with certain visuals. We have seen even in right now in public life. How would you look at this connect to nature?
The word you have used is right, visual. His writing is very visual. Imageries are drawn into your mind when he talks about it. And he talks about the blossoming of a kamal flower. He also talks about the wilderness. He talks about a
Yes.
storm. He talks about rain. And he is almost, and the favorite poem of mine is where he talks about a tree. That, how many travelers have taken shelter beneath the tree. But the tree is never thinking that, I'm giving shelter to so many people. The tree is just standing there.
So that's beautiful, and as you rightly said, the words here also. Since I'm very tempted, I must say and confess here, to read things which I've really read. I've gone through almost each word.
Rakhi, you can read one small one more, but then don't read from his thing. Read a poem, sorry, a letter.
Yeah. So
One more.
yeah, for example, yeah, one more that I will, since I'm tempted and I'm allowed now, then I will read from here. It is all you doing without you guarding me. Would I have survived this, being cold? Or write these words, seated under this forest tent? No specific subject, random thoughts, just a few worries, I guess. So, a traveler, somebody who's traveling, somebody who has a journey. And I think this is very symbolic. One talks about his beginning from the railway station. Now, a traveler, a teenager who goes out, he's always in the quest. So there is this journey that he's also weaving through these writings. Somebody who's not static.
So while you were saying this, a thought comes to me is when I said that his writing is very visual. There are imageries drawn, and also I feel he has an extremely wonderful imagination. His imagination, the similes that he draws, they're very different from what I am otherwise used to.
Mm-hmm.
So he's
And,
original, very original writing.
So another thing he talks about, and I'm not reading the full thing, but he talks about patience a lot. And he says that give me patience. And also the existing darkness dispels someday. So what is this darkness he's talking about? Could you capture many of his emotions, let's say when he was growing up as a child to a teenager to a young man, then to a political worker, and then on to his public life? I mean, can you gauge that person?
See, I don't know too much about the man because I have not been a political journalist. So it's not somebody whom I have documented over the decades. So while reading, I can feel his suffering. I can feel his anxieties. And I'm curious to know that what is happening around him. But I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Yes, many of us don't know many things actually, and that's exactly what I think will come out. That people who see one side of him maybe have not seen the other side, and while he does that, I think this book is going to do many things in many ways, presenting the side of a man who everybody has tried to see in different light altogether. But in between, especially during the, many times in his interviews, for example, once he was talking to Prasoon, and this whole idea of when Prasoon called him Fakir, and, this whole idea of suddenly leaving all that is material, that kind of urge that comes through some of his writings, interviews. How would you look at a persona, a personality who is bestowed with great powers? Of course, we cannot deny that. But still, being a loner somewhere, being somebody who is ready to leave everything?
I think anybody who's on the top is a loner. Anybody who is extremely powerful in a position like him is isolated, because there are circles around you and you have to unearth from that and find your own real world. But sometimes certain things come out in the social media, where he is early morning walking in his garden, and his garden has these specific things where there are pebbles, then mitti, then water. So all this makes you think that this man has thought it through, what all he wants to do, how he wants to spend his morning. Sometimes we see on the social media him spending time with the peacocks, you know
Yeah.
he's feeding the peacocks. So my perception of the man is also from his social image, but my perception from him is also from his writing. And
I think that makes the book very, very interesting, Bhavana ji, because as you rightly said, the visuals, the exterior, those images on social media. I mean, he's a social media icon in so many ways in terms of the number of followers he has on Twitter. He's so active, and in fact, I must say that in this book also he talks about technology, and he talks about the importance
yes,
of how important writings are, at a time. And I'll share this here, Bhavana ji, that we all understand. Frankly, we are watching television and all kinds of things related to it, and we understand the importance of what it does when you pick up a pen and put it on the paper. So this whole idea, the catharsis, so to say, which comes through writing, is also reflected here through the book.
yes, because he talks about the gadgets, that they can never instill that kind of intimacy. And he also talks about how letter writing is dying and we all should preserve it.
Yeah,
He
true.
talks about shibirs, shibirs in the mountains. And he also talks about how when everybody leaves the shibir, how it looks like complete vacuum from the previous day, and the wilderness of it.
I think this idea, this kind of aspect of his writing or personality would surprise many, because people see him in crowds, surrounded by a whole lot of people many a times, or only some visuals when he's seen walking maybe at his residence, or maybe on a beach also we saw him once. Those visuals were very strong and which came out on social media. I think when he talks about away from this whole digital world, talking about the idea of writing, the idea of pen and paper. He also recently on a radio show, Man Ki Baat, he talked about storytelling. So there is this creative, again, aspect of his personality, which not many have known, which not many have tried to touch, is reflected through in this writing. Away from this glare.
He talks about the social dilemma that the movie is talking about, what the gadgets and the technology is doing. And he's talking about the need for space to meditate. He's also talking about how every day, even if you're surrounded by these camera and the shutterbugs, you're not letting it affect you, because they're just doing a job. You have to just go on with it.
I think that's the point which really gets reflected, and I think in future when we are really going to discuss, and I would love to do another edition of a session where we are talking about it when the book comes out, as to how people take it. People have seen him always like a public figure, and I'm repeating myself, somebody who's always with people, around people, and then there is this image that he has to maintain. So how Narendra Modi ji feels from inside, I think much of it is reflected through in this book, but also at a time, Bhavana ji, we are in pandemic, and it has also let us, a lot of us, introspect. A lot of us know as to what real life is all about, what our realities are, because these are unique times. We have seen people going. There are reflections which are of a different kind. So the timing of this whole idea in a book, what would you say?
I started it about a year ago, and we were to release it this year. So nobody knew that the pandemic is going to happen.
Okay.
And then we left it to the publisher to decide when was the right time. And after having some brainstorming sessions, they came up with the idea of releasing around this time. I think it is a good idea, even though there would have been bigger opportunities for me if we had used it literally. But it is not about me, it is about the book, it is about the man. And I would again give credit to my editor for publishing in the format he has, because it's a small size book, but it's extremely well produced and it is costing only 299 rupees. The whole idea is that it should reach to as many people as possible, because this is not the chief minister, this is not the prime minister, it is a regular man, and everybody should know this man behind the prime minister. So I think it's a good idea.
I mean, allow me, and if I'm permitted, just two more lines maybe from what he writes, and we have to get that there. He talks about the motherland a lot, of course, we know that, we've talked about that. But this, he talks about the restlessness to dream. So this whole idea of being restless from inside, not because of the person you are, but the kind of things you want to do. And there is so much that you want to do, and how to do that, how to achieve that whole idea of oneness, where a nation comes together. All that he's writing in this book. He talks about of combining discipline with institution. So these are I mean, I think if you have to pick up words which you have woven so interestingly and intricately, I mean, how much can we really look at through this book? You're talking about discipline, you're talking about the restlessness to do much. There is ambition, but there is how to do it. All kinds of things coming up. How would you look at it when you were writing it, Bhava?
When I was writing, I was taking one letter at a time, and my target was to finish at least 5 letters in about a week. And it was taking long, because it is not something that you can just race it through. You have to get it right, you have to get the emotion right, and you also involuntarily get caught with what is he thinking, have I missed out something, has he left something unsaid that I have not captured in the language I'm doing it? Is it making the same sense, or is it saying something else? Am I misleading my reader? Because I should not misinterpret him. So these thoughts were there. So when it would weigh me down too much, I would keep the book aside for a while. But my constant test was that I would work through the day on the book, and in the night, for refreshing myself, I would watch the TV, and in the news he would go from left to right and right to left as the prime minister, and I will say, no, what is happening? This is not the man, I want that man. So but the fact is that this man on the TV has become what he is because of this man whom I am translating. It is, his core is that.
So I can tell you, and here I would also talk a little bit of having been a political journalist, but of course looking at literature with keen interest, Bhavana ji, is that here's a person who somebody would say, a lot of people have looked at him differently. He talks about judging. People have judged him. People have said things about him. People have different thoughts about him. But every time, even a huge things comes before him, I would say there is this resilient approach inside him which strikes back, which comes out, this whole courage, this whole idea to come out and face it with strength, with all the, as you say, failings of a human being. He talks about being an ordinary man, but he's not ordinary. So how do you think, I mean, I can only ask you that, how do you think he manages to do that? There are these things where questions are being asked, when people are, expecting a whole lot of things from him, these expectations, these desires from people, from others in this wide world, and to be able to face that with serenity when so much is going inside.
See, Rakhi, you just rightly said that you've been a political journalist, you have observed him, you have judged him, you have written about him, and you have also wondered about what is the real person. I feel you know him better than I do, perhaps, because I have never written about him. I'm not a political journalist. Everybody knows that I write about cinema. So it's not like this is Mr. Bachchan or Shah Rukh Khan. I would understand the DNA. I would understand their progress, their process. For me, he is the ordinary man.
Okay.
I feel I am, in a way, blessed that I'm not a political journalist and I have translated the book. Because had I been a political journalist, I would have had too much of baggage. I came with complete purity and I absorbed his intensity with complete submission. And I said, I don't care who he is. This is the book I'm translating, and I will do full justice to it, and I'll give it my best shot. And I think that intention, the honesty, has come through.
No, what I can tell you, what I loved was the title. I mean, this letters to mother, it really touches, because there is this essence of believing in that feminine, which we all strongly believe in. And we are two women talking about it. And we are so proud of being a woman. And we bring in that solidarity with women, which I really believe strongly in also. So I think this essence and the idea of, bowing down to something which is feminine, which is womanhood, which is motherhood. How do you really look at that?
Journalists asked me that don't you think it is strange that he addresses the letters to a female goddess? Because looking at his persona, you expect him to talk to a male god, say like Shankar or somebody. I said that I have my relatives, all of them spread in Ahmedabad. And whenever I would go to Ahmedabad, which was very often, I would always hear stories about him as the chief minister. And they would all say that, माता में बहुत मानते हैं वो, नवरात्रि में फास्ट करते हैं, फ्रूट्स और जूस पीते हैं 10 दिन पूरा. So these are stories we have heard. It's not something new. The reason he probably writes a journal to the mother goddess is the mother goddess has played an important part in his formative years. And usually our relationship with our favorite god begins or is influenced by our mother.
Yeah, great.
Maybe,
So some people are writing in and talking about motherhood. I think we are watching actually on our screen some of these comments coming from a lot of women. And we know, Bhavana ji, how much he respects his mother. Modi ji's visuals of meeting his mother, touching her feet and connecting with her each time, is something that really moves us also. This mother-son relationship comes through. How do you look at the whole motherhood aspect once again here? Since a lot of women right now I can see are not only watching, but are writing some very good stuff, and they're also asking you, Bhavana ji, as to how would you speak as a mother?
I don't know how to answer this question because I think it's all about the mother goddess, and it's about his faith in her, and I don't know if it can be equated to his equation with his biological mother, but I feel that his faith in the mother goddess is definitely influenced by his biological mother. And as far as how I look at it, I think for all of us women, our reactions are always very instinctive, but otherwise, I would not like to make this into a gender issue.
No, not really. I mean, I was saying it like a power. When he talks about Jagat Janni, the land which he belongs to, the nation which is always a she. I mean, a feminine symbol to it.
Yes.
That's what.
The lines are blurring from the Jagat Janni to the mother country. It's all the same. For him, it is all the same, and he is wanting to address it and to be a part of the movement, change it. All that is there.
As you rightly use the word, and take it from there, the movement. I mean, when you be a part of a movement, or when you're trying to lead that movement. I don't know, when he was writing that, he really knew that time when he was writing that one day he would be the prime minister of this nation, this mother nation that he was yearning for, to talk to take guidance from, inspiration from. Um, how would you go back to the time and talk about it? Also, Bhavanaji, did you have a chance to talk to him or speak to him when you were writing?
When this Gujarati book was released in 2014, on the stage, he spoke about how in 86, when he wrote this, he had no intention of publishing it. At that time, he didn't know that he was going to be the chief minister. But when the book was released, he was the chief minister. And I was in the audience watching him. Even I didn't know at that time that I was going to ever translate this. And it happened 6 years later. I have met him and kind of given him a few samples of what I had initially translated for him to just have a look at it in case he's feeling that I'm getting the rhythm right. He just had one question to ask me, that what made you choose this book? And I said, I like it because it is talking to the Mother Goddess. And there is too much intensity and suffering in it. He just smiled. He doesn't reveal much. And I'm used to this kind of icons, not in the political world because I don't brush shoulders with anybody, but I'm used to all the icons in the cinema world. And anybody who's really on the top usually speaks less, I feel, because there's too much going on in their head and heart, too much they have to do. Mr. Bachchan hardly speaks, but you have to just read his eyes to understand probably what he's thinking, and you may not be right.
And that's what I would say a film critic and writer like you would really be not only intrigued about, but interested in. And I understand those emotions, Bhavanaji, to try to understand the mysticism, try to break that silence somewhere, which is actually silent. Do you think, again, you as the translator and who you translated it, I would say a perfect person to choose, because this whole cinematic experience and the creative landscape and the writing, you weave all this into one. And as you rightly said, having seen powerful people, big people, maybe not from the political world but from the cinema world, which are also icons, was that kind of came easily to you to understand those nuances of someone being big but someone you're looking into?
I would say that has been the training for the last 40 plus years, that you're constantly meeting the most well-known personalities whom you watch on the big screen, and but you're interacting with them on intimate levels, and you know that they are as human as you are, and you are unintimidated by them, unfazed by them, and you accept their weaknesses and vulnerabilities as you would about your own family and friends. And that keeps you very rooted and grounded, and it does not, that their icon or their positioning does not affect your writing. Because when you write, that is a space nobody can dominate you. I'm the youngest in my family among 8 siblings. And in family matters and in personal matters, किसकी शादी में कितना पैसा देना है, क्या गिफ्ट करना है, मैं कोई डिसीजन नहीं लेती हूँ. जो मुझे बोला जाता है मैं करती हूँ, मगर मेरे काम में मुझे कोई कुछ नहीं बोल सकता. I am the master.
Okay, we give it to you, Bhavanaji, and you've really done it well also. Because for me,
I'm just explaining to you the dichotomy. I'm not boasting.
no, I get that. I get that essence. And in fact, I can tell you and to the viewers that it's been a personal pleasure for me, because I've listened to you, Bhavanaji. I've read your writings. And I think one thing that I shared with you is interest in cinema, that to Hindi cinema. So that's where we are. And I think that was another chance to not only look at the book, the personality, the Prime Minister today of India, but also the person, as he says, that how an ordinary man should be and his yearnings. So that is something which is very, very interesting. Any other thought that came to you? Because here we are also seeing somebody who's at the mist, because I'm going back to the time that he wrote, 1986, and watching a person who has a lot of ideas, who has ambition, but who is now beginning to get into a bigger phase. How do you look at that phase? Again, a teenager who comes from humble background and then thinks of these big ideas, a story in itself, very cinematic in a way.
There was a film made on him. I forget the title of it, but I saw that. And at that time, this book was not anywhere on the cards. It was a few years ago. And it spoke about his time in the mountains, how he was all the time there, and he had a guru there. And then the guru, he tells the guru that, I'm confused whether I want to be a soldier or I want to be a yogi. No, he says, I want to be a yogi. And then the guru gives him 3 tests. I don't remember the test just now. And the way he responds to it, the guru says that there is a yogi, there is a soldier. And then there is a soldier who is also a yogi. And you are that, and that is your karma, and that is what you have to do.
Mm-hmm. No, I know these aspects get reflected when you saw, and initially also, in fact, in this book, his association, initially in the initial phase with gurus and saints, and that's where I think we began talking about this whole philosopher in him. Which sometimes people, I think, just don't know about or just don't get into. But right now that he's in the thick of things, handling too many things and being shown on TV, and the political platform, which is very much before him, he has to tackle that. And then comes a book which shows him as a soft-hearted person. What is your understanding, Bhavana ji? How are people, once the book comes out, how the people are going to look at it?
I think they are going to be very surprised. They are not going to be at all ready to get this insight into the man, and feel also very grateful, because when you know that the Prime Minister is capable of all these emotions, you somehow suddenly start identifying with him and feel that he understands you better. I think it is also going to be a lesson for all of us that it is a good habit to express yourself and document it, because it's all a part of our own persona. So there's no point running away from it. Most of us don't want to document it because we all want to write perfect. And in the quest of writing perfect, we are not writing.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Oh, that's true. That's true. I think that's a good beginning, and that's something that makes, as you rightly said, and I use your words, is being more human. Actually, one line where he also talks about with dedicated hard work will accomplish the promise. So somebody who's, of course, we all know this of an individual, a person who works really hard. His 24/7 kind of nature. Where he has less time to relax or to do anything else, but to think about his work and working. How do you look at this hard working professional here?
I think without hard work, nothing is going to come out. And if on his level he's working tremendously hard, I think you and I on our levels are also working all the time. Otherwise, we would not be where we are today. So I think hard work is the basic for anything. Hard work, discipline, patience are virtues that I have observed in common factors in all the top level people. Whether it's Tata Birla, or whether it's Bachchan, or whether it's Modi, or anybody else. These are common character traits that you will come across.
Would you also see, as question is just coming to my mind, when you've seen political power, you've handled, this is the second phase as the Prime Minister, He has seen earlier statesmen. He has seen world leaders. I'm reminded of somebody like Mahatma Gandhi in his teachings, Vinoba Bhave or Vivekanand. Having seen all these different kinds of personalities and many of whose readings and writings he has read or understood, how would you look at him connecting to the young generation today? How do you see young people looking at him through these writings also once it comes out and taking points from there?
The book is out, Rakhi, and people can buy the copies from the Amazon site.
Okay.
The site is given here. They can order their books. That is one. Two, he's always addressed the youngsters. And as I said, I have all my relatives in Ahmedabad. So even as a chief minister, when we would go to Ahmedabad, most of the Gujaratis live in joint families with 3 generations, and everybody had a perspective on him. The younger generation is very clued in. I know of so many nephews and nieces who are settled in America. They are all connected to his doings in India and write to him on his website. So he's kept all the channels and the avenues open to be communicating and to be connected to the younger generation or even to the seniors.
Mm-hmm. So I mean, what I was trying to understand that this kind of a book, which shows Narendra Modi ji in a different light altogether, to different sections, how it is really going to be received. That was my curiosity, basically, that I was talking to you about. People, let's say in rural areas, people who are in urban areas, people who are in India and abroad, how that those all sections, variety of sections are going to really look at it. You rightly said that.
Yeah, and I don't think much. I just did the translation. Now, how people react to him, how youngsters react, how different stratas of society react to him, that's to each his may.
Okay. And something which I would say also, maybe on behalf of many who can't ask this, but I'm asking is that do you think this phase is very important, where you start thinking about those things, where you've seen a whole lot of things, the public life part, being a public figure, having met all kinds of world leaders, having traveled to so many countries, you start talking to yourself, and then you talk about this oneness, and then you start writing or maybe collecting those writings, and that's where the book is. So talk about that phase of life that he's in.
The book is from the phase of 1986. We have to again and again establish that. And introspection, reflection, without it, there cannot be any communication with yourself. And without communication, there cannot be any writing or journal. All people on the top are all the time talking to themselves because they introspect it better than anybody around them, and they know what decisions they're going to take. But I think majority of them never put their introspection, thought processes on paper or on the computer. Because that's too draining and it is very time consuming. But what all the leaders or people who are icons, if they can have somebody around them who they are talking about their thought processes and who builds it as a book, that would be great material for their followers. But then the person's personality should allow it. You have to feel comfortable about doing it. It cannot just happen overnight. It takes a lot of time.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, you rightly said that it all began during that time, but we are going to watch it now. We are going to actually experience it all now and to see the various dimensions of this personality in 2020. So there has been a journey of this personality. I think this book tells us all, and we have actually discussed many of these aspects. But going back again and again to the book, and I would, though I really don't want to read much because I really also want a lot of people to buy it and read it. It's a very handy book, so we should all have it. It looks very colorful to me. The way the layout also has come out very beautifully. Any message that you think which really stands out through this book, Bhavana ji?
I think self-expression. Self-expression is the message that everybody has a right to self-expression and everybody should do it. And once you have expressed yourself, you have to stand by it and not feel embarrassed by it or not worry that how people are receiving it or how people are going to judge you.
Another thing that happens again with personalities is that sometimes they feel that they are really being misunderstood. I mean, this is not about one person, but I think happens with a whole lot of people who are handling a lot of things. Though they are surrounded by their colleagues, by their expectations from the other sides, and their expectations from your very own. Would you like to say anything about that? Which also kind of, do you think reflects that how well I'm understood, or maybe sometimes I'm not?
I think these thoughts come to all the people in the top positions and they deal with it in their own way. That shows their temperament and that shows their confidence level. And maybe initially when they get into power, they are a little more sensitive, but as they sustain their position, they get used to it and adapt to it.
Mm-hmm.
We have tackled most of it now, haven't we?
I think you almost read the book, and I don't want to because I mean I flagged, as you can see, a lot of his writings, and I must compliment you again for very very beautiful lyrical words that you've chosen, Bhavna ji, and as you rightly said that the Gujarati words were very rich. So I think for nothing else maybe but for the richness of these words and the richness of that very different kind of literary flavor that this book purely brings about, I think is something that I think we're both happy about, Bhavna ji, isn't it? So just about the book.
What do I say?
Anything that you want to say now to so many people who are going to read it?
Rakhi will hold the book and Rashmi ji and his team will take a picture of three of us together, that is me, Modi ji and Rakhi, and I will say to all of the people who have connected with us right now that please buy the book if you want to know your Prime Minister. Don't judge him. Read this book, read the letters to the mother, and ask your friends, family, relatives, everybody to buy it. Because then I will be encouraged to probably write another book.
So here is to the book, to the writing, and to the person we did not know could write. Of course, unfiltered, but I think the words are very beautiful. Also, it shows the side of a prime minister today, but also somebody whose yearnings are about being an ordinary individual. So here is to the book, and here is also to the person who translated it, Bhavna ji, beautifully.
I want to say one last thing. You asked me to say a last thing. I want to say, Rakhi, it was absolutely wonderful talking to you because, you know, when the person who is interviewing you has read the book and has captured the essence and got into the space that you were, you feel very gratified and you feel happy that you chatted with her because she traveled you through the journey in the way you would like it. So thank you.
Not only it was my pleasure, Bhavana ji, again talking to you. Also because again, even our conversation, I can say, was very unfiltered. We never talked much about it, and I think that's what is the beauty of when we present something which is pure, which is raw, which is so earthy and original. And that's what I think is the flavor we both enjoyed today. The pleasure, of course, has been mine to be also associated with Kalinga Literature Festival. Thank you so much. You're bringing in new perspectives each time. I'm tempted to actually bring about through you so many other intellectual perspectives. Thank you so very much. Bhavana ji, I wish you all the best. Look forward to your writing, to your reviews also. as I watch cinema more and more. Thank you so much.
Kalinga. Thank you, Kalinga. Thank you, all the viewers. Everybody, thank you.